Is an expensive saucepan worth it, or are the cheaper brands just as good? To answer that question and find out which one is truly the best, I tested 13 of the highest rated saucepans on the market. To test how evenly they distribute heat, I preheated each pan on medium for 2 minutes and measured the surface temperature in the center, the outer edge, and halfway up the sidewall. To see how fast they heat up, I filled each pan with 2 quarts of water at the same starting temperature and timed how long it took to reach a boil on both electric and induction cooktops. To test responsiveness, I removed each pan from the burner and timed how long it took for the boiling to stop. To find out which handles are the most secure, I poured water into a glass with dry hands and again with oily hands, and I poured oil to see which rims dripped down the sides. I also measured how hot each handle got after 10 minutes of boiling. And to test handle strength, I filled up each pan with water and shook it aggressively for 2 minutes. Beyond these controlled tests, I cooked with each pan for several weeks to get a feel for how they actually perform in a real kitchen and how easy they are to clean. I also compared key specs like weight, cooking surface, handle length, and lid design. In this video, I give you my honest review of each saucepan. I'll show you which ones are actually worth buying and which ones you should avoid. I'll also give you a comparison chart so you can see all the specs and data side by side. I'll start with the least expensive pan and end with the most expensive. The Goldilocks 3-quart saucepan has a polished exterior and a thin handle with a groove on top that keeps it from rotating when you tilt it. I wish the handle were a little thicker, but the grip is secure. It was the second fastest to boil on induction, but only average on electric. And the difference in temperature between the center, edge, and walls was significant. The Viking 3-ply saucepan has a polished exterior and measurement markings on the inside. The handle reminds me of All-Clad D3, but it's curved instead of straight, and the groove isn't as deep, so it's more comfortable. In my tests, it reached the highest surface temperature of any pan after 2 minutes, and it was the second fastest to boil on electric. It's also very responsive. My main complaint is the glass lid. The metal trim around the edge can trap water when you wash it, there's a risk of it breaking, and when it fogs up, you can't really see inside anyway. Steel lids are easier to clean, more durable, and lighter. Legend has a polished exterior, measurement markings, a helper handle, and sealed rims. Most stainless steel pans leave the aluminum core exposed around the edge. Over time, especially if you use the dishwasher, that aluminum can recede, causing the steel layers to become sharp or even separate. Sealed rims eliminate that risk entirely. This is a well-built pan, but it has one major flaw. Before I get into that, I want to quickly thank Masterclass for sponsoring this video. Masterclass is a membership where you can learn directly from people who are literally the best at what they do. There are over 200 classes across cooking, business, tech, wellness, and more. I recently watched Sarah Blakely's class on Masterclass. She is the founder of Spanx, and she built it into a billion-dollar company with a simple idea and $5,000 in savings. She talks about how she came up with the idea, how she tested the product, and how she convinced retailers to take a chance on something totally new. One thing that stuck with me is how quickly she tests ideas. Instead of overanalyzing, she focuses on getting something in front of people, getting their feedback, and improving it from there. That's something I've been trying to apply more myself. If I have an idea for a new video or project, I'll try it and see how it performs and adjust instead of waiting until it's perfect. Instead of mindlessly scrolling when you have downtime, Masterclass is a great way to learn something useful that you can apply right away. The membership is $10 a month, billed annually, and it gets you unlimited access to the full catalog of classes. If you're ready to get started, right now you can get up to 50% off an annual membership. Just click the link in the video description or scan the QR code. So I mentioned that this pan has one major flaw. The handle is round, which is fine most of the time. With dry hands, I could tilt and pour without any issues. But when I put oil on my hands, the difference between a rounded handle like this and a grooved handle like the Viking was very noticeable. The Heritage Steel Eater series is made in Clarksville, Tennessee. It has a brushed exterior, which I actually prefer over polished. Polished finishes look great at first, but over time they scratch and end up looking brushed anyway. It's the lightest pan I tested, which makes it noticeably easier to clean and maneuver in the sink. The handle was slightly slippery with oily hands, but not nearly as bad as Legend. But I do wish it was a little bit thicker with a slight groove on top. The handle also got warmer than most pans after boiling, but it was still cool enough to grab. One thing I noticed is that the rivets stick out more on the inside of this pan than any other pan I tested. It's not a big deal, but over time they can collect buildup and grease, and they're a little bit harder to clean around. The Caraway 3-quart saucepan has a brushed exterior and a modern design. The bottom is more rounded, which makes it easier to reach in the corners with a whisk. The lid is flat with a handle that spans all the way across, which looks cool, but it's hard to clean under. It's also by far the heaviest lid I tested. This is the only pan without flared rims, so when I poured oil, it dripped down the sides. The handle is round and slippery, and after boiling for 10 minutes, it reached 101 degrees, which was the hottest of any pan by a wide margin. It's not a big deal, but it also annoys me that they don't print the capacity on the bottom of the pan. The made-in 4-quart saucepan has a brushed exterior and the tallest walls of any pan I tested. The handle is long, comfortable, and secure. The helper handle is huge with a wide enough gap to easily fit 4 fingers or an oven mitt. The lid handle is also large and easy to grab. It had the second smallest temperature difference between the center and the edge, so heat spreads across the base very evenly. And it was the fastest pan to boil on induction. Before I get into the next pan, I have a very quick favor to ask. If you're enjoying this video and you want to see more reviews like this, please take a second and subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate your support. The All-Clad D3 saucepan has a polished exterior, flared rims, and excellent heat distribution, with the third smallest temperature gap between the center and the edge. The most notable feature though is the handle. It's the second longest of any pan I tested, it stayed the coolest on the stove, and it has a deep groove on top that really locks your hand in place. Even with oily hands or an oven mitt, this handle is not slipping. This level of grip may not be necessary on a fry pan, but I really appreciate it on a saucepan when you're pouring boiling water or tilting a pot full of sauce. The downside is comfort. The edges can dig into your hand, which is the most common complaint about D3. But for a saucepan, the safety is worth the trade-off. All-Clad D3 Everyday is the same pan, same lid, and the same price as All-Clad D3. The only difference is the handle. The groove is much more subtle and the edges are smoother, so it's a lot more comfortable to hold. It's still more secure than the fully rounded handles on pans like Legend and Caraway, but your hand is not as locked in place as All-Clad D3. Demeyere Industry is the smallest pan I tested at just 2.3 quarts. It's made in Belgium with a brushed exterior, sealed rims, and a completely rivetless interior. The handle is flat with a slight rough texture that keeps it secure. It also has a wide fork at the base that disperses heat and keeps it cool. The lid handle is fine, but it has a boxy design and you can only really fit 3 fingers comfortably. The Fissler M5 Pro Ply is made in Germany with a brushed exterior, sealed rims, no rivets, and measurement markings on the inside. It has a large helper handle and very flared rims that keep oil from dripping down the sides. The problem is the main handle. It's very round and it gets slippery when you tilt the pan. It was also one of the slowest to boil on both electric and induction. All-Clad Copper Core has a polished exterior, flared rims, and an elegant copper ring around the bottom. It has the same cup-shaped handle as All-Clad D3, but with a cutout to disperse heat, and it's a touch longer. In fact, it's the longest handle of any pan I tested. This pan and the Fissler are the only 3-quart saucepans I tested with a helper handle. The main feature is the copper core. The idea is that copper conducts heat faster than aluminum, so in theory this pan should heat faster and be more responsive. Copper is also heavier, which is why this pan is tied for the heaviest. Unfortunately, I didn't really see the performance advantage across my tests and in real-world cooking. It's a high-end looking pan and it performs really well, but the difference between this and the aluminum core pans isn't really noticeable. The Demeyere Atlantis saucepan has a unique 2-toned brushed exterior and rivetless handles. It has a thick 7-ply base that sits perfectly flat on the cooktop and thin single-ply steel walls. Because of the thick base, the temperature was the most even between the center and the edge. And because the conductive layers are only in the base, the sidewalls heat much slower. It was one of the fastest pans to boil on electric, but slower on induction. It's tied for the heaviest pan I tested, and that thick disc makes it extremely bottom heavy and awkward to tilt. The walls are so vertical that they meet the bottom at almost a 90-degree angle, which makes it really hard to reach the corners with a whisk. The rounded handle gets somewhat slippery, and pouring and washing puts a decent amount of strain on your wrist. The handles are also welded on, not riveted. Years ago when I tested the Demeyere Atlantis frying pan, the welded handle broke off during my testing. Since saucepans are heavy, especially when filled with liquid, I was really concerned it would happen again during my shake test. Luckily, it didn't, and all of the other handles held up fine as well. But welded handles are not indestructible, and if you ever notice one start to wiggle or loosen, stop using it. All-Clad G5 is the most expensive saucepan I tested. Instead of a standard aluminum or copper core, it has a perforated graphite disc in the center. Graphite conducts heat faster than copper, but weighs significantly less. So the idea is that you get faster heating without as much weight. You can actually see the perforated disc through the cooking surface in certain light. It has the same handle as the All-Clad D3 Everyday and a large helper handle. In my tests, it was the fastest pan to boil on electric, but I was surprised to see that it came in 8th place on induction. So after all that testing, which saucepans are worth buying and which ones should you avoid? Before I give you my take, just a quick heads up that all 13 saucepans I tested are linked in the video description if you want to check them out. If I had to pick one saucepan, it would be the All-Clad D3. It wasn't the absolute best in every single test, but the handle is the most secure I tested. It stayed the coolest on the stove, heat distribution is solid, and it performed well on both electric and induction. If the lack of comfort is a deal breaker for you, the All-Clad D3 Everyday gives you the same pan, but a more comfortable handle. Made In is another solid option with its large helper handle and excellent performance on induction, and Goldilocks is a great value. The Demeyere Atlantis isn't for everyone, but if you want the most even heating base, an extremely thick warp-resistant bottom, and you don't mind the extra weight, it's worth considering. On the other end, I wouldn't buy Caraway, Fissler M5, or Legend, mainly because of the rounded handles. I like the Viking, but I'm not a fan of the glass lid, and you can only buy it as part of a set. And All-Clad Copper Core and G5 are both well-made pans, but the performance advantages over the standard D3 are minimal, and the prices are significantly higher. If you're still not sure, this chart will help you compare all the data side by side. Pause the video to read. If this was helpful, check out this video where I give you rapid-fire reviews of the top 31 stainless steel frying pans, or this video where I review the top 5 titanium pans. And for more videos like this, click the logo to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.